Today we will be starting our discussion on civil administration of the Marathas during Shivaji's period. Now, generally, जब हम छत्रपति शिवाजी के प्रशासन के बारे में बात करते हैं, तो देर इज वन इम्पोर्टेंट थिंग दैट वी ऑब्वियसली नोटिस, विच इज वेरी ऑब्वियस, कि इन कंपैरिजन टू द पेशवास पीरियड, there is a shortage of material about Shivaji's period in general. Bakhar, we do get certain Bakhars which gives information about Chhatrapati Shivaji. लेकिन बखर जो है generally they glorify war and there is hardly any information about the administration. Of course, we do get information from Sabasat Bakhar, which talks about Shivaji's regulation, and Chitragupta Bakhar. These are the important Bakhar, like Chitnis Bakhar gives information about the theories of administration. And it tells us that the administration of Shivaji was inspired by the old Sanskrit tradition. And the Bakhar may not, these Chitnis Bakhar may not really reflect the ground realities. Then there is an interesting book that is Adnyapatre, which we have already discussed while discussing the sources of Maratha history, and which is written by Ramchandra Panta Amatya. And to know about Shivaji's administration, शिवाजी के एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन के बारे में जानने के लिए ये किताब, ये जो साधन है, ये बहुत सबसे महत्वपूर्ण है. Then there is a text called Raja Vyavahar Kosh, which was sanctioned by Chhatrapati Shivaji at the time of his coronation. And in the Raja Vyavahar Kosh, Raghunath Pant Hanumante the Pandit, Raghunath Pant the Pandit, what he has done is that instead of Persian words, he suggested Sanskrit and Marathi words. So this gives us information what kind of words were used in the administration. Then this gives information about working of institution and karkhana, civil and military administration. Then there is another source called English factory record at Surat and Bombay. Because when the Marathas were building their kingdom and later on it was turning into empire, the Britishers were slowly establishing themselves in India and they had their factories at Surat and Bombay. As these both areas were very close to the Maratha territory, they have kept their record. You know, the Britishers, they used to write record, they used to write letters. So that British record at Surat and Bombay is also important source from where we get a lot of information about Chhatrapati Shivaji's administration. देन व्हेन शिवाजी वेंट टू साउथ, जब छत्रपति शिवाजी ने दक्षिण में आक्रमण किया था, एक्सपीडिशन किया था, उस समय there were certain Christian missionaries, and those Christian missionaries, they were uh, they have seen Shivaji's invasion to those area, and they have written certain accounts from where we get information about Shivaji's administration. Then there was a British civil servant. If he, you know, after the Britishers defeated Peshwas in 1818, the Britishers, they occupied a significant portion of Maharashtra, and when they have done survey, they started doing survey. So there was a person called Major Jervis, and he was a British civil servant, and he wrote information about the administrative structure that continued to exist and that was put in the place during Shivaji's time. There was a person called Annaji Datto in Shivaji's administration, और उसने लैंड का सर्वे और असेसमेंट किया था, और वो उस समय तक भी चला आ रहा था 1818 तक. And if you take an overview of Shivaji's administration from all these sources, we generally feel that it is a system which has gradually evolved. Because when Shivaji has gone and started looking after his Jagir near Pune, his father's Jagir, in fact, there was a lot of anarchy. Nizam Shahi, Adil Shahi, and Mughals, they were fighting, and this area and development was by and large quite neglected. There was an anarchy, and a lot many people have left this area. And Dadaji Konde, who was sent with Shivaji in order to put the administration in place in the Pune area, he, in fact, you know, announced that because if the people are not there, the forest will grow, and in the forest there will be wild animals like jackal. So there were lot many jackals, and he put a price that you kill one jackal, and I bring its dead body, and I will pay a certain price. The intention was that to make the area safe for the human being to go around and cultivate. And you know, one another problem that we find about not getting information about administration is that the general character of the Marathas, they were generally considering that fighting and going into the battlefield is a manly thing to do, is a valorous thing to do, and everybody wanted to do that. And running administration is not that heroic thing. There is a person called Nilopanta Muzumdar who was in Shivaji's administration, and he requests Shivaji that please release me from this kind of administrative responsibility. I also want to go into the battlefield and I want to fight and conquer the land. And Shivaji has to convince him ki as the conquering of the new land is important, similarly giving right proper administration is also equally important. So that is one of the also reason that we don't find much of the administrative record, but whatever we can understand, let us try to understand how Shivaji's administration worked. Well, now in that area, Pune and surrounding area, as we try to understand Shivaji's administration, we understand that कि वहाँ के जो देशमुख वतनदार होते थे, they used to always fighting among themselves. एक देशमुखी used to be hereditary right for the collection of the taxes. And कई बार for one Deshmukhi of one area, there used to be more than one contender within the family, or there could be two families who are contending for that post, and they used to fight. And they had a legacy of murder and revenge. And Shivaji, it was challenged to Shivaji to bring order out of this chaos. And he was really trying to change the system because the Deshmukh, they were the hereditary tax collector. They had certain rights, and they used to shift the elegance. They will change their loyalty from one master to another master very quickly, and they always proved a threat to the central authority. So Shivaji has tried to do away with Vatan and try to implement the system where he can pay salary to his people. But everybody is having his limitation. So Shivaji, in his system also, he could not do away completely with Deshmukh. Certain things from the old system, it continued, and certain he implemented new. But definitely his policy was against Vatan and hereditary ownership. Well, and it's because of this reason that he was not in favor of continuation of the hereditary Deshmukhi or hereditary Watandari, that many of the Watandar and Deshmukh, they supported Adil Shah against Shivaji because Adil Shah was willing to let these Marathas rule as per their old tradition, and let the Deshmukhi continue if the Deshmukh continue to support my rule, the rule of Sultan. Then later on after Shivaji, what happened is there was a very chaotic condition in Maharashtra, as we have already studied the Maratha War of Independence, and Rajaram was forced by the circumstances to revive the system of Jagir, which Shivaji really wanted to do away with. And we find interestingly that the Maratha commander of Shivaji's time, like Tanaji Malsure, he could not amass lot of wealth because he was paid salary and not given any hereditary land which can be inherited by his children. But we find that the Sardar during Peshwa's period, they could amass lot of wealth, and that is inherited by their descendant, by their progenies. And this was one of the system that has in fact harmed the administration. ये जो हेरिडेटरी ओनरशिप ऑफ लैंड की जो सिस्टम होती थी और हेरिडेटरी पोस्ट की जो सिस्टम होती थी वो काफी हार्म करती है। कई वतनदारों के जो प्रिविलेज थे वो शिवाजी ने कम कर दिए, काट दिए, और जो देशमुख अपना जो घर होता था, गढ़ी उसको बोलते थे, उसको फोर्टिफिकेशन करके रहते थे, दे यूज्ड टू फोर्टिफाई दैट लैंड। तो वो फोर्टिफिकेशन को भी शिवाजी ने कई बार तोड़ा। सो लेट अस नाउ टॉक अबाउट शिवाजी's principles of administration. Generally we find that in Ajnapatre, and the principle is that to safeguard the territory with the help of the mountain fort in the region. This was one of the important principle. The mountain fort is very important, and with the help of the mountain fort you can safeguard the surrounding territory. Not to give government job in the family, but to the deserving person. Well, but to the deserving person, and not to give jagir in lieu of military service, but give salary. Zamindar, not to collect revenue through zamindar, but through government servants. And the in Maharashtra, or generally in the Hindu community, there is a conflict between different castes. Shivaji had used these differences judiciously to run his administration smoothly. Like on foot, he will employ the people belonging to three different castes, so they will keep watch over each other. And one of his policy was, of course, to save money for future. Now, to start into the integrity and detail about his administration, at center there you was the system of Pradhan Mandal, called the Council of Eight Ministers, and This council of eight minister, lot of information about them is given in the information that we get about coronation, the book on coronations. Uh, so this is a list of eight important ministers. Peshwa was Mukhya Pradhan, and he was Moropanta Pingle during Shivaji's time. Then there was Muzumdar or Amatya, who was a kind of finance minister. He used to look after finance, Naro Nilkantha and Ramchandra Nilkantha. So these two brothers were jointly holding this post. Then there was Vakanavis or Mantri, who was Dattaji Trimbak. Then there was Gabir or Sumant, who was Ramchandra. Then Surnis or Sachiv Annaji Datto. Then Pandit Rao or Royal Priest was Raghunath Rao. Then Sarnobat or Senapati was Hambi Rao Mohite, and Nyadish was Niraji Raoji. So how this Astapradhan Mandal they have originated, we are not sure about it, but probably it has evolved over a very long period of time. And many of these posts, like Peshwa's post, they were in existence before Shivaji. Like when Shahaji sent Shivaji to look after his Jagir near Pune, he sent a person whose post was Peshwa. And the Peshwa's post was also prevailing in Deccani Sultanate. In fact, Peshwa is a Farsi word. Then uh, in the administration we get information about we get references to the text called Kanujapte. Kanujapte used to be an official document which was written at the time of coronation, and this Kanujapte gives a lot of information about the duties of different pradhan and official and their code of conduct. The posts were not hereditary, like during Shivaji's time itself. Sarnavat, the commander in chief, they changed during Shivaji's time. For example, there was a person called Chor. He was first Sarnobad, then Pratap Rao Gujar, and then Hambirao Mohite. All right. And when even this existence of council, it is not that it came into place first time during the coronation. The council did existed before that. इसके पहले भी council थी जब अफजल खान के खिलाफ शिवाजी की लड़ाई हो रही थी, and Shivaji has to go and meet Afzal Khan. He had meeting with his council and discuss with them what is to be done, shall we withdraw. And so in out of this all eight ministers except Narish and Pandit Rao, everybody was expected to participate in the war. So let us now talk about the duties of Astapradhan, and these duties are mentioned in the text called Kanujapte. Peshwa Mukhya Pradhan, he is main minister, and his duties were to look after the welfare of the state in general terms. Generally, he is supposed to be working for the welfare, to represent king in the absence, to keep peace among the officers, to promote harmony in the administration. All royal letters and charters had to bear his seal below the king's seal, and to lead forces whenever required. So these were the duties of Peshwa. Then Amatya was like a finance minister, and he is assisted by two important officers like Darabdar and Fandis, and he supervised the income and expenditure of the state. That is the important work of finance minister, no doubt. He you used to keep record and account of the different provinces, and different provinces they were made subordinate to him, officers at the different provinces. He will check all the accounts of public income and expenditure and report them to king. Then he will countersign and put his seal on the statement of account of public income and expenditure of the kingdom, and to go for fight whenever it is required. And then next was Mantri Vakanavis, who is home minister, and uh, his duty was to compile a daily record of what king is doing daily, what king is doing every day, and the court proceeding he used to write. He used to watch over the visitors of the king. Somebody should not, go and assassinate the king. It was his duty to protect the king. To watch over his meal, the food that is served to king, there is no poison, and to deliberate with all the political matter with the king. So these were the duties of mantris. Then we have Sachiv, which is also called Suranavis, and his responsibility was to see that all the royal letters are drafted in the proper style. Drafting of royal letter, seal is being put. He was supposed to receive the letter, check the account of Mahal and Pargana. The whole kingdom was divided into the Mahal and Pargana. We get references to that. Then Annaji Datto was a very famous Sachiv, and apart from this work of take drafting letter, receiving letter, he had also carried out the work of land settlement, and he that is generally known as Annaji Datto's Dhara. Dhara is a land settlement. Then we have a person called Sumant. He was king's advisor on the foreign relation, war and peace. दूसरे स्टेट के बारे में, आजू बाजू के जो राज्य थे उसके बारे में जानकारी लेना, अपने स्पाई सिस्टम के साथ में फॉरेन एम्बेसडर्स को रिसीव करना, एंड स्टेट जो है उसकी डिग्निटी बाहर मेंटेन करना। Senapati was in charge of army. He was supposed to make war and expedition, and he was supposed to preserve newly acquired territory, and he is supposed to render an account of the spoil. उस लड़ाई में जो भी आता था, जो भी लूट का सामान आता था, उसका हिसाब उसको रखना होता था। ये सेनापति का काम था। पंडित राव, उसको दानाध्यक्ष भी बोलते थे, और जो रिलीजियस सेरेमनी होती थी उसका वो हेड होता था। जो लर्नेड ब्राह्मीन्स है उनको ऑनर करना, उनको दान देना, दक्षिणा देना राजा के ऑन द बिहाफ ऑफ द किंग, ये भी उसकी जिम्मेदारी थी। थियोलॉजिकल क्वेश्चन, कोई अगर थियोलॉजी मतलब धर्म से रिलेटेड अगर कोई बात, कोई क्वेश्चन आता है, कोई विवाद होता है तो उसको सॉल्व करना। जाति डिस्प्यूट अगर कोई होता है, जाति में कोई समस्या होती है, तो उसको सॉल्व करना। रिलीजियस सेरेमनी, धार्मिक जो सेरेमनी होते थे उसकी डेट निश्चित करना। अगर कोई धर्म के विरुद्ध काम करता है तो उसको क्या सजा देनी चाहिए, ये भी वो निश्चित करते थे। पिन्नेस, प्रायश्चित, किसी के हाथ से पाप हो गया तो उसको प्रायश्चित क्या देना है। पब्लिक मोरल, लोगों की मोरलिटी अच्छी हो, इस बात का भी वो ध्यान ध्यान रखते थे। न्यायाधीश जो थे वो सिविल और क्रिमिनल केसेस हिंदू लॉ के अनुसार वो ट्राइड करते थे। जो भी जुडिशियल डिसीजन होता था विथ रिगार्ड टू विलेज हेडमैन एंड शीप, ये लास्ट में न्यायाधीश के, इट वाज विद इन द जुरिडिक्शन ऑफ न्यायाधीश। जस्टिस जनरली विलेज और कास्ट पंचायत में डिसाइड होता था, लेकिन जब वहां पर कोई डिस्प्यूट अगर आता था तो दैट यूज्ड टू बी रेफर टू न्यायाधीश। सो एक्सेप्ट लास्ट टू दिस पंडित राव एंड न्यायाधीश, रेस्ट एवरीबडी हैज टू फाइट द वॉर आल्सो इन केस इट इज रिक्वायर्ड, अपार्ट फ्रॉम देयर ड्यूटीज। इसके अलावा ये जो मुख्य प्रधान थे, इसमें से मुख्य प्रधानों में से कई लोग प्रोविंसेस के भी इंचार्ज थे। पूरा जो साम्राज्य था उसके अलग अलग भाग प्रोविंसेस बांटे थे, और कई बार मिनिस्टर भी होता था एक व्यक्ति, और उसके पास में प्रोविंस की जिम्मेदारी भी होती थी। सो जब वो कैपिटल में होते थे, रायगढ़ पे होते थे राजा के साथ में, उस समय उनका कोई एजेंट होता था, उनका कोई प्रतिनिधि होता था जो कि प्रोविंस की देखभाल करता था। सो प्रोविंसेस के क्या क्या डिवीजन थे ये हम लोग देखेंगे अभी। नॉर्थन, साउथर्न एंड साउथर्न प्रोविंस इन साउथ इंडिया, लाइक नॉर्थर्न डिवीजन एक केवल था, लेकिन देर वॉज साउथर्न डिवीजन इन महाराष्ट्र, और उसके नीचे भी जो साउथ इंडिया में साउथर्न डिवीजन था। ऐसे आमतौर पर तीन डिवीजन कुछ लोग बताते हैं, कुछ लोग इससे ज्यादा बताते हैं, उसके बारे में भी हम लोग चर्चा करेंगे। नॉर्थर्न डिवीजन जो था दैट इंक्लूडेड द एरिया कॉल्ड डांग, बांग्लाना, कोई कंट्री, साउथ ऑफ सूरत, कोंकण, नॉर्थ ऑफ बॉम्बे, Deccan Plateau or Desh near Pune, and it was governed by Moropan. Peshwa was in charge of this area. Then Southern Division in Maharashtra, that is कोंकण, जो साउथ ऑफ बॉम्बे था। नॉर्थ बॉम्बे के ऊपर में जो कोंकण था, नॉर्थ कोंकण। साउथ ऑफ बॉम्बे जो कोंकण था, सावंतवाड़ी, नॉर्थ कनाडा कोस्ट, इट वाज लुक आफ्टर बाय अन्नाजी दत्तो। एंड साउथ इंडिया में जो एक नया एरिया छत्रपति शिवाजी ने जीता था 1674 के बाद में, that was covering area from Y to Koppal on Tungabhadra. So that was looked after by the person called Dattaji Pant. And the provincial heads were there, unko they were assisted by the person called Sarkar Kun. एंड लेकिन ये तीन हमें कहीं मिलता है, लेकिन चिटनीस बखर जो है उसमें कहा गया है कि देयर वर 14 प्रोविंसेस ड्यूरिंग शिवाजी टाइम। और अगर हम एट काउंसिल की बात करते हैं तो ये जो आठ का जो आंकड़ा था, एट नंबर जो थे वो कोई फिक्स नहीं थे। फॉर एग्जाम्पल, ये जो अमात्य की जो पोस्ट थी शिवाजी के समय में दो भाइयों में बांटी गई थी, नारो और रामचंद्र। देन ड्यूरिंग संभाजी's टाइम, संभाजी has dismissed and killed some of the member of the council, and he created a new post called Chandu Gomatya, and he gave this post to Kavi Kalash. And in fact, this Chandu Gomatya, Kavi Kalash became supreme, he became like prime minister. And under Rajaram, there were new posts were added, like the post of Pratinidhi was created. Prahlad Niraji was made Pratinidhi, and he used to always advise Rajaram. And then another post was created, that is Hukumat Pana, which we have already referred earlier during the Maratha War of Independence. And Ramchandra Panta Amatya was Hukumat Pana, and he virtually ruled, controlled the Marathas all over Maharashtra. Now, this all Astapradhan, each of the Astapradhan generally had a staff to assist them, and this staff included Diwan, Muzumdar was an auditor, Fadnis was deputy auditor, then there was Sabnis or Daftardar, then Karkhanis, who is supposed to arrange the things that is required for the office. Then there was Chittis, then there was Jamadar, treasurer, and then there was Potnis, who was cash keeper. Now, apart from this Ashtapradhan, there was one permanent secretariat, which used to look after the correspondence. So this secretariat also played an important role. Like there was a private secretary of King Balaji Auji, and he prepared all royal letters and he prepared diplomatic correspondence. So his responsibility was drafting of royal letters. We see that in earlier cases, one of the Ashtapradhan was also given the responsibility of looking after the later. So probably they were jointly doing it, and still there is a bit of overlapping of the duties. For example, here we see the Sachiv. Yes, so Sachiv was definitely one of the minister in the Ashta but then there was a whole office to assist him. That is what that is the information we get. So his secretary at Balaji Auji was Sachiv, and Balaji Auji was looking after it, all these things, and he had Fadnis, Potnis, and Poddar to support his work. Now, apart from that, we do get references to the 18 karkhanas. They were looking after the different thing. For example, there was a khajana, so where cash used to be kept. Then Zawahir Khana, where jewelry used to be kept. Ambar Khana, where greenery. Sarbat Khana, medicine. Top Khana, artillery. Daftar Khana was record. Zamadar Khana was public treasury. Jirat Khana was armory. Then Mudbak Khana was kitchen. Ustar Khana was camels. Nagar Khana, where band was kept, then Talim Khana was gymnasium. So, Pil Khana was elephant. So, we have all these karkhanas on Raigad where all this thing was kept. Then, apart from that, we do get references to the different mahal. Mahal is sometimes used, a word is used for division of a suba, and sometimes it is used for the department. And we get references to 12 mahal, that is, Pote means treasury, Saudagir means merchandise, Palkin, then Koti, Imarat. So, we get references to all this kind of thing. The king in the administration, the king, all the power was concentrated in the hand of the king. He was very powerful, and it was only the sense of duty that put restraint on him, and that is the reason it was possible for Sambhaji to do away with the ministers and concentrate all the power in the hand of his friend Kavi Kalash. Uh, And gradually we see that after Shahu, there was no capable ruler in the house of Shivaji, and all the power has now passed in the hands of the Peshwa. So Peshwa, who was equal to Ashtapradhan in during Shivaji's time, has now become supreme. And his Fadnis, in fact, the Fadnis is supposed to be a very junior officer. But later on, as the Peshwas became weak, Nana Fadnis, who was supposed to look after the account, now became more supreme. So there was as no very clear-cut constitution written. It was all depending on the circumstances that first Chhatrapati was the most powerful, then Peshwa became the most powerful, and then Fadnis became the most powerful. Now, about the division, like I said, Chitnis Bakhar gives a list of 14 provinces, and he divides the whole territory under Shivaji into the two parts, that is Swarajya, the area which was directly under the control of Shivaji, and the Mughlai. So Mughlai was that area which was under the control of the Mughal, but from where Shivaji and the Marathas, they used to consider, they used to divide this area also among themselves and attack that area and take Khandanit, take money and come back. Chitnis gives list of these 14 provinces. And he says that that is headed by Subedar. So Pune and surrounding area, it was a Jagir from Shaji. Then Mawar Prant, having 18 forts that comprise of Mawar, Aswad and Junnar. Then Vai, Satara, Kharad, western part of Satara region, having 15 forts. Pannala region, 13 forts. South Konkan, Ratnagiri district, present Ratnagiri district. North Konkan, present Thane, which is having 12 forts. Then Baglan, Trimbak, that is near Nashik. Then, so these are the 11 prant. Just a minute. Yeah. So out of that 14, these 11s are more important. You can just read it. There is nothing need that no need of explanation. But just I just wanted to tell you that the division of the province according to Chitnis Bakar were 14 provinces, and all these provinces were called Suba. And there was a head of this Suba called Subedar. He is also called Amaldar. And this Subedar was assisted by different officers. Like there was Muzumdar to look after the account. There was Chitnis to write letters. There was Draft Dardar who keep the record. There was Fadnis, Subnis, Potnis, and these officers were appointed by the central authority. Subedar is also sometimes referred as Sarkarkun. So meaning is quite different. Like Sarkarkun is a now head clerk, but during those days, Sarkarkun was also a word used for Subedar. That was a very important post. And Suba was further divided into Mahal, and income from each Mahal was 0.75 to 1.25 lakh. And salary of Subedar was 400 won per annum, that is 100 rupees per month. Amaldar was a person who was responsible for the revenue collection. Actually, the information that we get about administration is a bit fake. We can make sense whatever is available. Now, in case of revenue administration, in Shivaji's kingdom, there were territories which were taken from Nizam Shahi, Bijapur, and Mughal. So in southern district, we find that there was a mark of Vijayanagar administration. The administration which was put in the place by the Vijayanagar Empire, it still continue. And so we have this revenue system of four different states: Nizam Shahi, Bijapuri, Mughal, and Vijayanagar also. So Shivaji's tried to bring unity in all his kingdom, and that was a period when there was a constant warfare, and that led to the lot of suffering of the people. Malik Ambar, the Nizam Shahi noble, had a very good revenue system much before Shivaji, and Shivaji tried to revive his system, Malik Ambar system. For example, he tried to have the land measured and accounted for. So there was a kathi, which was a measuring rod, which is 5 cubits and 5 feet in length. So 1 cubit is equal to 45.72 centimeter. So 20 kathi a square made 1 bigha, and 120 bigha made 1 chawar. So that is how the land was measured. शिवाजी के समय लैंड का सर्वे किया गया था, ताकि रेंट की असेसमेंट की जाए, और बाकी का जो ड्यूज है, कल्टीवेटर जो है उनके पास से किस तरीके से टैक्स लेना है, इसके लिए लैंड की मेजरमेंट की गई थी। अलग अलग जगह समय अलग अलग सर्वे किए गए। फॉर एग्जांपल दादोजी कोंडदेव ने पुणे के आसपास सबसे पहले सर्वे किया था, फिर मोरोपंत पिंगळे ने किया, बाद में अन्नाजी दत्तो ने किया। सो रेवेन्यू सेटलमेंट के जो मेन फीचर थे, इसमें से बहुत सारी बातें मलिक अंबर से ली गई थी। सो उसमें ये जो मेन फीचर है उसके ये है कि क्लासिफिकेशन ऑफ लैंड अकॉर्डिंग टू फर्टिलिटी, जिस तरीके की जमीन उपजाऊ है उस तरीके से उसका क्लासिफिकेशन अलग अलग कैटेगरी में किया गया। हाउ मच द प्रोडक्शन विल कम फ्रॉम दैट लैंड, दैट वाज असेस। गवर्नमेंट शेयर फिक्स कर किया जाता था। जो टैक्स है वो आइदर यू कैन पे इन काइंड और यू कैन पे इन मनी। इंटरमीडियरी जो थे देशमुख, उनको दूर करने की कोशिश की शिवाजी ने, एंड डायरेक्टली टैक्स गवर्नमेंट ऑफिसर्स ले। स्टेट जनरली क्लेम, सो दिस वाज अ वेरी हाई क्लेम, 2/5 generally state ले लेता था प्रोडक्शन फ्रॉम द एग्रीकल्चर लैंड, and 3/5 was left to the farmer. And there are mention of this Tagai and Istawa. Tagai and Istawa is probably just a minute. Yeah, Tagai and Istawa. So Tagai and Istawa was an attempt to bring new land under cultivation, and under this system, new cultivators were given cattle and seeds, and the loan advance to them was recovered over the year. So that was called system of Tagai and Istawa. द वे किसी भी गांव का जब असेसमेंट किया जाता था तो जो वेस्ट लैंड होती थी उसको एक्सक्लूड कर दिया जाता था, उसको छोड़ दिया जाता था। एंड देन व्हेन द वेस्ट लैंड वाज ब्रॉट अंडर कल्टीवेशन फर्स्ट टाइम, तो शुरू में उसके ऊपर बहुत कम टैक्स लगते थे, बाद लेटर ऑन इट वाज टैक्स। शिवाजी was a kind of leader of the farmer against Watandar. Watandar and Zamindar, they used to exploit the soil, exploit the farmer, but Shivaji tried to reduce that exploitation to the extent it is possible. Uh, so एज सुन एज शिवाजी किसी एरिया में अपना अधिकार जमा लेता था, तो वहां पर जबरदस्ती से मिलिट्री के लिए जो कंट्रीब्यूशन लिया जाता था पहले, उसको वो बंद कर देता था, एंड द लैंड रेवेन्यू वाज कलेक्टेड थ्रू द गवर्नमेंट ऑफिसर्स और थ्रू द एजेंट। कबूलियत वाज अ काइंड ऑफ एग्रीमेंट दैट इज जनरली साइंड बाय द कल्टीवेटर विथ द गवर्नमेंट ऑफिसर्स। Shivaji generally took care that the people in the Swarajya, that is the main Shivaji's land around Pune, is not subjected to the exploitation. Like कोई soldier उनसे खंडनी नहीं लेता था. खंडनी was a demand of money. There was no fixed खंडनी. Military officer had no role in revenue collection. Land was measured and it was noted on the name of the cultivator. An official called Amaldar was appointed to collect revenue. Amaldar was also made responsible to maintain law and order. Tarabdar or Talikdar was in charge of small district and he was assisted by Havaldar, and through 2 or 3 villages they were supervised by Karkun. We are just getting information to bits and pieces. Whatever you remember, you just try to remember that. Mahalkari was a person responsible for the collection of revenue from Mahal, and he was held by Havaldar. And the revenue is generally stored at the fort in the area. And two such revenue division made a prant, and that prant is governed by Subedar and Maltidar. Hereditary zamindar were not allowed to tax the peasant, and it's because of this Shivaji's government seems to have become very popular among the common people, common farmers. Apart from that, there were other sources of revenue, like at the port, like Kalyan, Bhivandi, Chaul, Dhabol, and Ratnagiri. The custom duty was imposed on the foreign good entering and leaving these ports. They paid custom duty 2.5% of the value of the good, and but the system was not very streamlined, because these European merchants, they always complained that these people, Shivaji's people, they generally overvalued the good and they demanded bribe as well. So if then seizing of enemy vessel and ransom paid for the release of that vessel was also another source of income. Rahadari and zakat. Rahadari was transit duty on goods and animal passing from one place to another place. Then there was a judicial fee. If there is a case, the winning party paid money, that is called harki, and the losing party also paid money to government, that is called gunegari. The hidden treasure, if it is found, then that is claimed by the king. And according to English record, the state had monopoly of salt trade. And according to English record, Shivaji also had owned certain ships, and he carried out trade with the countries like Persia. Watandar, if the Watandar is succeeding his father, he has to pay fee to government. That was also another source of revenue. Then Watan and Inam, if it is forfeited, if it is confiscated by government, that is also another source of income. Then Shivaji also had mint at Raigad, and Sabasad mentions 32 different kind of coin. There were gold coin. Shivrai Hon was a gold coin. Gambhar, Mohor, Putris, Patshahi Hon, Devari Hon, Ramchandra Rai Hone, so these are the gold coins. And some usually the state minted the coin, but sometimes certain saukar, the rich wealthy merchant, they also minted the coin after paying some license tax to the state. Uh, the coins of other ruler like Mughal coin were also in circulation in the Maratha territory. Then another source of revenue was profit from plundering enemy territory. Enemy territory was plundered, and that was also a source of income. And then another important source of income was Chauth and Sardeshmukhi. So Chauth is something, it is generally taken from the people who are residing outside Swarajya, and the Maratha army used to go and demand chauth. That is, whatever income you have during this year, out of that one-fourth income you should give it to us. Otherwise, we are going to attack your territory. And apart from that, there used to be Sardeshmukhi, which is 1/10, that is whatever is total income, out of that 1/10 has to be paid. So these two taxes were generally imposed by Marathas on the population, on the people, or the king and ruler, or the area that was outside the Swarajya. Chauth and Sardeshmukhi, and this Chauth and Sardeshmukhi did not bring any obligation on the part of the Marathas to protect them. Uh, thing is that the land from where Shivaji ruled was not very fertile land, and it was very difficult for him to maintain the huge army. So that is the reason he claimed he I am taking Chauth and Sardeshmukhi from the surrounding area, which is in fact enemy territory. And how this Chauth has originated, it's very difficult to determine. But if you recollect, we have studied about Sambhaji and how Portuguese used to pay Chauth to the Kodi king of Ramnagar. And when the Ramnagar king was defeated by Sambhaji, Sambhaji claimed that that chauth, that is 1/4 of the income, should be paid to me. And well, so total income, if you calculate according to Sabasad Bakar, it was 1 crore hoon. And but then there was a lot of expenditure also. Shivaji has maintained large army of 2 lakh people. There was so that army need to be provided provision. They need to be paid. The salaries to be paid to civil servant. The fort had to be built, repaired. There were tanks, canals that need to be built. So these are the all. This is where the money went. Temple, then give to Brahmins, defense of forts and territory. Those people who have done extraordinary act of bravery, they should be given prize. The money also went to the widows of soldier and the soldier who have died for Swarajya. Their widows were given pension by Shivaji. That is a very interesting thing. Then let us now talk about little bit about village administration. In the village administration, a very old system continued, and generally the village remained a very self-contained unit, and the village headman used to be Patil, and he collected revenue of the village and deposited it or dispatched it to the central authority or district authority, and from district it went to the province, and from province to the central government. Patil was a combination of revenue officer, he was magistrate and judge as well. All small disputes were decided by Patil in the village. Uh, he acted as an intermediary between government and village, and he imposed two taxes for government and for the village development. Like, from the tax that he collect, he has to do certain work like digging of the well, construction and maintenance of temple, holding of annual fair and kirtan. Patil was generally a hereditary office, and in return of his service, he was generally given rent-free land. In the there was a village land, and certain land was given to Patil, and he doesn't have to pay any tax on that land. He is supposed to look after the welfare of the villager. And गांव में पाटिल के अलावा कुलकर्णी भी होता था, जो कि गांव का एक क्लर्क होता था, अकाउंटेंट होता था। पाटिल के साथ में गांव का एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन चलाने की रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी उसकी भी होती थी। देन देयर वाज हेरिडेटरी वर्क ऑफ द कास्ट कॉल्ड महार। दे वेर विलेज वॉचमैन, गांव की वो रक्षा करते थे, गांव की बाउंड्रीज उनको पता होती थी। जो भी गांव में आता था नया, उनके ऊपर उनकी नजर रहती थी, या फिर गांव के आसपास कोई नया व्यक्ति दिखाई दे तो ये महार की उसके ऊपर नजर रहती थी। कोई चोरी तो नहीं करने आ रहा है। मैसेजर का भी काम ये करता था, जैसे एक गांव से पाटिल को मैसेज भेजना था तो अपने महार को भेजता था किसी दूसरे गांव में मैसेज देने के लिए। एंड जब पाटिल गांव से जो ट्रेजरी जो टैक्स कलेक्ट करके डिस्ट्रिक्ट में भेजता था, तो उसकी रक्षा करते हुए उसको ले जाना, उसके साथ में जाना, ये भी महार का काम था। तो महार एक ऐसी गांव की व्यवस्था का व्यक्ति था जिसको बहुत सारी ड्यूटी दी गई थी। फिर बाद में हमें रेफरेंस मिलता है द वर्ड कॉल्ड 12 बलूते। 12 बलूते का मतलब होता है गांव में जो अलग अलग काम करते थे उनकी कैटेगरी की गई थी, और उनमें 12, आमतौर पर 12 प्रोफेशन हुआ करते थे। सो दिस इज कॉल्ड 12 बलूतेदार, द हेरिडिटरी विलेज आर्टिसंस, एंड दे रिसीव्ड द शेयर ऑफ देयर प्रोड्यूस फॉर like for example, a carpenter is one of the balutedar. A cobbler is one of the balutedar. Or ironsmith is one of the balutedar. So they will provide service to the villager, like they will make shoes, or they will make the wooden implements that is required for the agriculture cultivation for the farmer. And in return of that, ये उनको जो था एग्रीकल्चर से जो भी प्रोडक्शन होता था उसमें का कुछ हिस्सा बलूतेदार को दिया जाता था। Patil was responsible for maintaining law and order, and Kulkarni was responsible for maintaining account and record. Administration जो था बहुत scientific नहीं था, and Shivaji in fact did not get much time to reorganize the administration. But nevertheless, whatever was possible for him, that he tried to bring order out of the chaos, because when he went to look after his Jagir, there was all chaotic situation, but slowly he tried to bring out order out of the chaos. Like he established Astra Pradhan Mandal, and their duties were assigned. He conquered a lot of area, and it was divided into the different provinces. Then we have references to the Mahal, then we have Kanuzapte, different kind of taxes. So this is where the civil administration of Shivaji ends. If you are having any doubt, you can ask me.